Let me tell you the story of the space Viking, Thor Odinson.
So that's the ex-girlfriend, is it?
If it's color we need, let's bring the rainbow.
This ends here and now!
Whoa!
You heard it up top. We are going on a cosmic road trip this week back to Valhalla, riding on a boat pulled by goats, maybe, on a very special episode as we talk the latest Marvel movie drop. That's right, it's Thor 4, More Thor. Oh, wait, that's not what it's called.
That's just what
Thor,
it should have been called.
Love and Thunder. Here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, Val Colin.
I'll just say more.
More the Pod Butcher?
Yeah, the Pod Butcher. Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Oi, you a god then? We had to butcher you. Go ahead.
And this is Jor. Love and Thunder.
The only
That's
reason I did that,
God,
before
Jor.
we get into this, is we have Thor, Core, good,
Gore.
and Gore.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Gore,
that medium O vowel, like, give it a rest naming people. Like,
But Colin, I do like your alternative title, Thor 4, More Thor.
More
It's got
Thor.
that whole rhyming thing going for it.
yeah.
What
Thor,
it should have been called.
Thor 4, more Thor. I like it. Well, we do get more
If
of them.
Taika had the balls.
Right. But we don't get as much of Thor as we did in, say, Endgame. It's a slimmer Thor, let's say. It's back to
Physically.
normal Thor.
He didn't
time.
skip leg day.
No.
No. But yeah, Love and Thunder came out maybe 2 weeks ago or so, but it is the latest Marvel movie, and we figured we would talk about it. But yeah, I know Taika Waititi does a lot of stuff. I think we talked about him briefly, but you guys fans of his work generally? I know that What We Do in the Shadows new season dropped. He's kind of like an EP on that on Hulu. He did the movie, obviously. I'm a fan of things like Jojo Rabbit. I like Thor Ragnarok, obviously. So, this is his latest joint, and we'll get into the specifics. But how do you feel about Taika?
Yeah, for me, I'm a fan of most of his stuff. And, I've said on here a few times, I think that Thor Ragnarok is probably my favorite MCU movie. So I was pretty psyched to see this, or at least, see it, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
It's
It looks
one of
like it's
those-
going to be similar, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
But one of those weird things, Jacob, where you can be like, it's a sequel to my favorite Marvel movie, which is the third one of that series, or
Right.
the 18th
It's
one
also a
in row.
reboot of that Thor
It's
series.
a
weirdly.
very
It's-
interesting direct thing, and we'll talk all about that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is interesting because I don't really care for the first two Thor movies. And I really, like, the Thor character is not what made me like Ragnarok, but they did kind of completely reinvent the franchise or the character, and I think for the better. And this is kind of like, more in that same vibe that Ragnarok had.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I like Taika. Jacob, I'm sure you'll kind of talk about the Taika fatigue coming up here in a bit. Joe's not here, but we'd have to shout out What We Do in the Shadows. I love that show. Mike, you said the movie as well.
Mhm.
I watched that pirate thing too. Just to set up my whole thing on this, my arc for this pod, I have behind me, Normies, if you watch our YouTube channel, all my
Ooh.
Thor comic books, which
Yeah.
are the Gore Butcher, God Butcher arc that these are based on. And you'd think that would really kind of prep me to say a lot about this movie. I don't really have a lot to say about this movie, so I'm going to find a bunch of other angles to talk about. That's my take on it.
Got it. Well,
Well, yeah, it's kind of that typical MCU thing now where it's like when a new movie comes out, you go see it and they're like, that was fine. And then you don't really have that much to say about it, right? That's
I
kind of
noticed
how
a lot
I felt.
of things, and I got
Yeah.
excited for the future. That's
Yeah.
the new game.
And maybe we'll talk
Yeah.
more about the Marvel fatigue potentially at the wrap up of this, because I think a lot of people in the entertainment viewer space are kind of there's concerns, let's say, about diminishing returns on the current releases of Marvel and
Yes.
things like that. So, speaking of diminishing returns, Colin, I see in the notes you were talking about how we did all these finales. And it's been a bit of a drought, as far as content. How are you guys surviving the lack of great TV last couple weeks?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I'm sure our listeners probably thought we were turning into a full-time Star Trek podcast. This is the first
Very close.
episode that we haven't mentioned
to the
anything related to
stars.
Star Trek.
It's like
But
a month.
in that zone, I've been watching the Orville, which is still running. And so, we talk a lot about Strange New Worlds, but I think this season of the Orville has been very good. So I would recommend it, especially for TNG fans. I think it's the best season they've had of the Orville.
I haven't watched it yet, Jacob, but I think that's all very pertinent to talk about mixing comedy with storylines. That might be something we talk about on this episode.
Yeah, very true, very true.
And I am feeling the fatigue of content. There's a lot of dumb stuff that's popping up that I could plug it in with, but coming off of those highs of The Boys and Stranger Things and Star Trek, like we've been talking about, and now the fact that, like, when I look at movie theaters, there's not really anything to get me excited to go to. Like, I'm feeling the pressure, Mike. I don't know if
You've seen Top Gun Maverick. You've seen Jurassic.
Ooh,
so now it's like, what is there to see? It's the summer. Where's the summer blockbusters,
Maybe they'll be coming. But I feel the kind of same fatigue. I mean, I did watch the South Park special on Paramount. That was fun. If you listen to our show, we call Paramount PP Plus. And they directly steal that joke. That's all I'll say. There's a streaming service called PP Plus. So
Matt and Trey,
you're welcome, Matt and Trey. We'll wait for a check.
You.
Yeah. But I guess let's just kind of jump into it, because we got to figure out, with Taika and Thor and what they're up to, and this guy Christian Bale Gore, it got me wondering what he do in the shadows. So let's go ahead and talk Love and Thunder right after this.
We're back. We are riding on the Bifrost because we are talking Thor, Love and Thunder for Thor, more Thor, here on Normies Like Us, with the God of Thunder himself, Thor. That's right.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, Thor.
Yes.
Thor, please tell us a little about this movie, about the plot of it.
I have to run, but I will have Mike do it. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Oh, bye, Thor.
All right, so Love and Thunder, right? We open with Christian Bale's Gore. He's got a dying daughter. He's wandering the desert, praying to his God for his daughter to be saved. She unfortunately, spoilers, by the way, for the whole movie, she dies. He continues to pray to his God. He ends up in an oasis. He meets his God face to face. The God is very arrogant, basically says, screw you, puny humans, we don't care about you. There just so happens to be a God-killing sword that in his moment of need, as the God is about to kill Christian Bale for denouncing him, the sword flies into his hand, similar to Mjolnir. A lot of weapons that fly into people's hands in this. Two sides of the same coin, maybe. One of shadow, one of light. Anyway, he kills his God and then goes on a revenge spree of all gods must die. Very much The Boys. Let's get these supers. They don't care about us. Yeah. It's all bullshit. So
no gods, no masters.
No gods, no masters. It's fairly Marxist, right? Because all the rich people aren't sharing with the people who need it. So eat the rich. Gods must die. They have gold blood. So anyway, at the same time, we have we see that Thor is kind of listless. He's missing his purpose. He's just kind of jumping into whatever battles he can. The God killing pulls him into the fray. Oh, I'll go help with this God killer guy. And then we learn that Jane Foster. Jane Foster, who was
Fonda.
Sick with cancer.
Jodie Foster.
Yeah, she's a human who calls upon the gods, or maybe Mjolnir, to help her with, he has a cancer diagnosis. It's stage 4, quite serious. And she travels to New Isengard, and somehow the Mjolnir accepts her as worthy, and she is now the mighty Thor. And we go on an adventure to stop the God Butcher with Thor and the mighty Thor, Valkyrie, Quirk, and the whole crew.
The whole Thor
A journey
crew.
of self-discovery and meaning.
Yeah, or if you're watching the trailers where he also says, I'm putting a team together. The Guardians will be here too.
Oh, yeah. They're in the first 5 minutes. Yeah. He starts out with them and doesn't last long. Yeah.
No.
So that's the plot. We'll dive in. We'll get our favorite, moments, talk about things we like, things we didn't like. I did want to just going off of it, sort of set up to throw to you, Jacob, to say, in the top of this podcast, we said twice, Taika fatigue, Marvel fatigue. That came up together. So is this the perfect storm of this coming together?
I think it really is. And I mean, if you've been on the internet, you know that this movie's kind of got a mixed reception, to say the least, on the internet.
Yeah.
And people are kind of singling this out as maybe not as good as even, some of the early phase MCU movies particularly. But I think it is a combination of those things. Like, I was actually talking to Joe off pod the other day about this whole phase. What is it? Phase 5, phase
We're
4?
in 4 right now.
4.
This is 4. The end of
Phase
phase
4.
3 was Endgame. Yeah.
Yeah.
Phase
We're gonna
Thor.
talk
We're in
about
phase
phases
Thor.
at the end of this. We're
Yeah.
at phase Thor.
Yeah.
And Joe said, do you realize that phase 4, there's been more hours of content in phase 4 than all of the other ones combined? Because if you add up all the shows
that
and
hurts.
the movies, it's insane to think about. So yeah, I think there is a Marvel fatigue. And with Taika, he's getting a little too, like, he's kind of everywhere now. And he was kind of a quirky indie guy coming up, and people love that, right? Jojo Rabbit, people love that.
Yep.
Now he's becoming so ubiquitous with him being in Marvel. Now he's going to do a Star Wars movie. He's getting sort of overexposed, and I think that's kind of leading to inevitably a backlash. So I think we're getting the Taika backlash and the Marvel backlash all together, right?
Is this a Benioff and Weiss thing too? Anytime somebody starts looking at a Star
It's the
Wars
Star
movie,
Wars
everything
curse.
else starts
Yeah.
sucking.
Ryan Johnson,
Jacob's been talking about this.
Benioff and Weiss, both were popular before their Star Wars thing, right? And then, it's karma, I guess. So I don't know, Taika, watch out.
Ryan Johnson.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At least he got to make his one.
Yeah, but his trilogy, that
it's
he's gonna
still,
do,
who knows where that is.
who knows? And then, Benioff and Weiss, and now Taika. So just don't accept these Star Wars jobs, because it's just bad karma.
It's like the Madden cover.
So-
Just don't be on it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
So that's the reaction. That's the world. That's the setup. So I'll throw to you guys now for your opinions. Mike, was that your reaction? Now, Jacob and I saw this film together. We talked about it in the parking lot. I know your feelings. But Mike,
Right.
you watched this today, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah, we have no
said
idea
a word. I am
what
like,
you feel about
super
this.
excited.
Yeah, I watched it today. I made time before we were going to record to go and watch it. It wasn't, first of all, with the fatigue note, I had to really drag myself kicking and screaming to this to actually watch it on time. But I did want to watch it out of curiosity for the state of media. We're kind of interested in that lately. And I think, broadly, it's not terrible. It has some moments that are good, and there's some stuff that I wish was expanded upon. It's better than Multiverse of Madness, and it's worse than Ant-Man 1.
Amazing.
In
I think the
my opinion.
multiverse question is going to be the litmus test going forward. So I don't know, but Jacob, I have gotten other people's thoughts on it, where I have gone to you as like, but we saw it together. We kind of had similar reactions, and your feelings have kind of changed a little, right? Can you kind of let us in on that?
The more it
I
sits.
mostly agree with Mike. I mean, I pretty much agree with that assessment. Like, it was fine. I enjoyed it while I was watching it, but it's ultimately pretty forgettable. But I think it's a standard MCU fare these days. But I kind of try to evaluate when I see a movie. I use like the Roger Ebert rule of like, whatever this movie is trying to accomplish, how well does it accomplish that? And that's kind of how I rate it. So yeah, it's not an amazing movie, but it's an enjoyable Marvel blockbuster. And there's things that I wish could have done better. There's things I like. So it's kind of hit or miss. But overall, I would say pretty good. It's fine. It's whatever.
And Colin, where do you land on this?
I'm harmless. I'm harmless about it. I truly, when people are like, "Do you like Thor?" I'm like, I like looking at it. I like looking at him. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Well, you get to look
turn
at a
your
lot of
brain
him
off.
in this one, too.
Yes, you get your, as Taika said, you get your full Hemsworth with this movie, and
Yeah,
and
that's
I
great.
think that's worth
The
paying
price of
due to.
admission.
I agree with Jacob. Look at the film for the context of itself, grade it to itself, or if you have to, I guess, weigh it to these big conventions of, but it's the 36th one in a 70,000 thing multi-film series.
Cross-media
No,
property at this point. It's not even a
Yeah,
movie set
yeah.
franchise. It's a cross-media
No.
property. It's TV shows.
And when you hear
yeah.
about stuff where, like, literally the director Taika can say, "Hey, that guy who appears at the end, I didn't cast him. I don't know anything about all that stuff." You really do kind of
Yeah.
have to shift your mind of like, am I seeing the work of an artist? Is this what cinema or film should be? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I get the whole vibe around this is that like everyone connected with making this movie was kind of half-assing it and not really putting in 100%. Like, I feel like with Thor Ragnarok, that was Taika really trying to make a good movie. With this one, it's like, I feel like they just went back to him and was like, hey, how much money do we have to pay you to like make another Thor movie?
Mhm.
He's like, yeah, I guess I'll do it, but not really having the passion that he had with Ragnarok, and I think that shows.
He has more
To
writing
counter-
control as well, so it's like more of his thing with less of the effort, maybe.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was shot during COVID, they're in Australia. Kevin Feige was not on set, so it was one of this rare one where there is not a lot of oversight. I to what Jacob just said of the passion, what you're finding in this, though, I think it's just a misdirected energy because you read the interviews with these people. Chris Hemsworth, Christian Bale, and Taika all seem to be, and Natalie Portman, all seem to be on the same page of, we made a really dumb kids movie for our kids who love this dumb shit.
Yeah,
I agree.
could
This
see
is
that.
definitely, more marketed towards a younger audience, which I think is totally fine. I mean, that's what Marvel comics are really for at the end of the day.
Right.
There's things that I wish could have been better. There's things that I feel like you were saying, Mike, things maybe were cut out that to improve the the pacing, or for whatever reason that it feels sort of like maybe it could have got like an extra 20 minutes or so to kind of pad out certain elements and make it a better movie.
These are it's one of the shorter of the MCU movies too, I guess. And having just watched it today, I mean, I've read this briefly. I didn't want to get into spoilers, but I've seen people talking about how tonally it's a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And so I want to ask you guys, my favorite thing that I think is the most underused thing is Christian Bale's gore, the God Butcher. I think that is such a cool idea. But most of the God killing is off screen. He has one very scary scene that we can talk about, which is like, what is this movie?
Scene. Where you're
Right.
where you can imagine Taika being like, okay, Christian, you can't actually kill those kids. Like, you need to relax.
Well, that's the thing is you say
We'll give you a puppet.
It is geared more towards kids with the lighter-hearted scenes, but then you're dealing with stage 4 cancer. You're dealing with a guy that's abducting children and like
who lost his daughter in the first 35
when I
seconds.
was a kid, Dorothy would return to Oz and she would get chased by a headless woman after being admitted to a mental asylum. And that is what a child's movie was, Jacob.
Yeah, we had the Labyrinth.
I refuse that.
Right.
Labyrinth was a babysitter escaping sexual assault the entire movie while a bunch of
crazy.
goblins sang.
You kind of need that
her.
nightmare fuel when you're a kid.
Yeah, there's a chance that a child will be
That's
sacrificed.
what this is. It's a
Right.
crazy Jim Henson movie.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Mike, that Christian Bale was killing it in this movie, and he was my favorite thing about it. And I wish he was kind of on screen more. And even his like origin story, I felt very rushed to me. It's like he had one interaction with his god, and then decided to kill all gods.
Right. And I guess we talked about Elden Ring. There's like a whole faction called the Godskins, and they wear white robes, and their whole thing is they want to murder gods. So I get really strong Elden Ring vibes. Like visually, it's really cool, and he's in the shadows. That's why I said what he do in the shadows, and he lives, I want to say Thor the Dark World. Like we kind of go there again. Like it's literally a dark world with no light and no color, right?
Realm.
I will pay you guys $1 million if you can name the dark elf villain that Christopher Eccleston plays. in
Malekith.
Thor: The Dark World.
Oh yeah, Malekith.
Which is an Elden Ring reference.
Jacob really looked. He really had to think about it. Mike, I am shocked.
It's only because of Elden Ring. There's another monster called Malekith.
Yeah, right.
Which they're pulling on a lot of Norse mythology, which that would not be at the top of my brain if that game did not come out. But I think he's really underused, and there's scenes where he's supposedly cutting his tattoos off of his skin that were of his god, and that's why he has, want to know how I got these scars? He has a little bit of Joker energy when he rips the head off that weasel, is all I'm saying.
Well, when you get Christian Bale, he doesn't just do anything. He likes to do something that has like kind of a meaty part, right? So it's interesting that his first MCU, obviously, who is Batman for the Christopher Nolan movies.
Or superhero,
but his first Marvel is this, and I feel like the way they pitched it to him was like, this is going to be like a really complex villain character that you can kind of sink your teeth into. And I think it's kind of a shame that he wasn't a little more fleshed out, because anytime he's on the screen, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Agreed. I would say expectation-wise too, Jacob, if that cocktail we said before of the burnout on the director and this universe are just sort of this little vortex over here, the other added tornado coming in is literally today when we're recording this, the 14th anniversary of The Dark Knight.
Oh my God.
So you still have these people who
that
are
makes
like,
me feel old.
that there was a superhero movie that changed cinema. And this guy Heath Ledger came, he changed everything. Now, can you imagine if the good guy in that movie got to play a Joker-esque villain? Gore the God Butcher is gonna blow our minds. And just like watching it, you knew he wasn't going to. It's a Marvel movie. It's
For
like
kids.
You know that what could happen that where you're like, oh, he put a pencil in a guy's head. No,
Right.
No,
Not gonna happen. Yeah.
No, I didn't think he was going to do anything too crazy.
No.
But I think Marvel's whole thing for a lot of their movies is they try to have a sympathetic villain, or you understand at least the reasoning for why they're doing what they're doing. Like with Thanos, the Black Panther villain, Killmonger. So that's kind of what they try to excel at. And so I did like that first scene where, I just wish it was kind of a longer kind of transition into, or like you said, we see him killing more gods and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's just like, oh, these gods are getting killed off screen, Thor. You better come help. Like it's literally, it's like show
really
us
dumb.
him doing stuff.
Like you see Sif, right, and she's like,
yeah,
they're killing gods over here.
But the end of that sequence should have been Gore appears in Omnipotent City, and you just see him destroy everyone.
Yeah, because I don't know how he can stand toe-to-toe with two Thors in the final act and a Valkyrie with the lightning bolt, because I haven't seen him do anything or defeat anybody powerful. Like, they show that big giant was dead, but I don't know how he did that, right?
No, they keep going to the shadow realm, they keep saying. He's in the shadow realm.
The dark world. That's what I'm calling it. Fuck that. It's the dark world. But yeah, so I think that's a waste of it. Again, it's a children's movie, and then what doesn't work for me is kind of the more kid-focused stuff, like we can all be Thor, let's say.
So, okay, that's a big moment. Let's talk about that one in a minute, but I want to say the other big tonal shift then, Mike, because Gore was obviously the big focus for a lot of people, and then I think the other thing that stood out to everyone was that sink scene with Jane Foster and the cancer stuff being so put forward and just immediately slapping back into the Thor of it all. Did that rub you guys wrong?
A bit, yeah, because it's like, it feels like a different movie. Like 1 second you're quipping, a million quips a second, and then all of a sudden it's like serious cancer time now. And then it's like right back to, screaming goats and stuff. Yeah. But again, along with the Christian Bale thing, I think that's how they kind of pitched Natalie Portman to come back. They're like, you're going to have this like really dramatic cancer subplot.
So meaty.
Yeah. But I mean, what do you think?
It's like immediately she's like she's going through it, and then she's grieving, and then in front of the mirror, and she breaks the sink and stuff, right? There's like that whole bit, and then immediately it's just joking with Valkyrie. Like, and Marvel does that a lot. It's one of the criticisms of their style is they'll undercut a very serious, dramatic moment with comedy, like in Ragnarok when Bruce Banner falls onto the Rainbow Bridge right after an incredibly emotional moment for Thor and them, and then it's like, let's just take the wind out of this, and that's just something that they kind of do sometimes, unfortunately.
Right.
Which doesn't help you when you are pitching characters that you're going to have something meaty, and then it's like really not.
This one doesn't bug me. I've heard it. I totally get it. I'd love to watch it again to really see if the comedy hits too forward. I like the scene that she has that quiet moment before she picks that hammer back up and it's back to full 80s, awesome action movie. Because if you have ever been super sick or face death or people who are terminal, you do try to put on that face of when you're around everyone, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. And then when you're alone, it's like, I'm going to die. I'm the only one who's going to. All my friends are going to keep living. This isn't fair. This is scary. I can't be alone with these thoughts. Back to Thor, baby.
Yeah. Right. And I think what's interesting with that subplot, the hammer's not healing her, right? She's still dying. Right. It's just making her feel like okay when she's Thor, but when she's not, holding the hammer or whatever, she's still dying of cancer.
It's a Rukia thing.
It's making her function. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just extending her life, really. It's not actually curing the cancer at all.
No, just allowing her to continue living. And sometimes it's like that. Literally, what are the things that you hold on to keep going? And then there's also a parallel, I would think, maybe this is giving this movie too much credit, but like with where Thor is, because he's putting on a face all the time too. This ends now. I am cool, but really I have a void inside of me and I cannot fill it with anything. And I don't know why I'm going on. I don't have a purpose. I'm not trying to be the king of Asgard. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just hanging out. What is my purpose? What am I here for?
I totally agree with you, Mike. And I think that's an angle they really could have examined more in this movie, because you have Thor. So you have of the original Avengers, you've got Captain America. He's old man now. He's Joe Biden. You have Iron Man. He's dead.
Oh man,
Iron
that's
Man
funny.
dead. Black Widow dead.
Yeah.
So all these
Oh,
OG
Black
heroes
Widow
are
is
retiring or dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have Thor, who's stays ever young and is unchanging. And he's just like, wait, all my friends are old or dying, and I'm still doing the Thor thing. Like, what am I doing with my life?
And the
My brother's gone. My planet's gone. My dad's gone. Everything. He lost everything.
Everything. And the penultimate message of this film is, and I think it's true for a lot of people who hit the midlife crisis point, is that when you do self-reflection and you sort of look at yourself, you look at your legacy. And what that ultimately equates to people is, I should create one. I should have children. And I love the direction that leaves Thor in.
Yeah.
But mentally, and we'll talk about it,
Yes.
leaves like an absolute headache in my mind where I'm like, oh, this super being called him Uncle Thor at the end. They're not even like pretending that they're like father and child. Like, I don't like anything about
Yeah,
this.
it's a little fast,
Right.
and we'll talk about it, but there is something interesting to explore with that of like, yeah, what's my legacy? Because to him, it's like, I'm the guy who didn't kill Thanos. That's why he doesn't think Stormbringer is great. It's like, oh, that's not that accurate. Like, he doesn't believe that he's worthy of happiness, right? And that's what he's working through, and to shoot, the whole message at the end. So she
It's so
is
strange.
his thing. Jane is his rock. That's all.
Now, literally for Multiverse of Madness, that the through line of that film is Doctor Strange will ask people point blank, are you happy? Because he is self-exploring if he is happy. And I agree that this, I don't know. I can't even think it while I'm saying it. I don't know which one I like better. I just ultimately don't think either of these are very good movies.
Well, at least this
Or
movie
whatever.
doesn't have the exposition backstory store that they go to in Multiverse of Madness. Right?
Or just the idea that I could walk up to another version of me and be like, hey, remember that thing about how I never talked about how our sister drowned? All that, I don't need it. But this is also a film about the self-reflection of, am I happy? But it does not involve Thor outwardly expressing that. It is a very internalized, him looking at other people's happiness to see if he could equate it. To Jacob's point, maybe I could use a little more finely tuned moments where he actually is verbalizing that stuff. Maybe we could do like a pass on the screenplay where like all the ideas coalesce. That would be awesome.
Well, if the idea is that like, oh, he's using all this lighthearted humor to kind of deflect from like his ongoing existential crisis, like that would be interesting, but it almost needs to be more explicit because it's too subtextual now where people are not even going to get that that's what they're going for, if that is what they're going for.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, characters in the movie won't understand that that's what he's doing.
Right.
Yeah, this movie doesn't know what it's going for sometimes when you rip a head off a ferret and then start telling jokes. But I think with this, there's like, it's funny where you have Peter Quill being like, it's better to love than lost and feel shitty about it or whatever. And then like that comes up on the boat. It's kind of our big emotional moment where it's like, I want to feel shitty about you. Like I want to feel something even if it's shitty because like I care about you or I love you still or whatever. And then you get Quark talking to Valkyrie about how, oh yeah, you lost your partner in the battlefield and you can't forgive yourself. And like, so that's where we're diving in, but it's only one scene where we really get it explicitly kind of underlined and the rest of the time it's just gags.
Now, I would say let's talk about the last tone thing then, which is the plot of this movie is to recover a bunch of stolen children who have been taken away from their home, a bunch of Asgard.
New Asgard.
Yeah, another rescue plot.
Mike, you mentioned this incredibly crazy moment at the end where Thor, who now is like, has what you would call in the comic books the Odin Force, like the God Force, but I guess they're just not going to say it. Thor can just do anything he wants to at this point. He can magically talk to Mjolnir like Anthony Hopkins does in the first one and cast a spell on it just by not even trying. He can project his power at other children and embolden them to, be gods themselves.
He could also like force ghost himself over there. There's a lot going on, but but he can power them up.
God.
Yeah.
He can power them up. I liked this scene. Now, it is ridiculous, of course, because it is a little girl shooting a golden beam outside of her teddy bear to destroy shadow monsters before they get the one wish from eternity.
If that's not a reference to the boys and the laser baby, I'm going to be mad.
True. But people out loud are saying this thing, and you as fans just have to be like, oh my God, this is insane. The imagery I do like, though, and that, again, one of these things that this movie's about, because it's about a lot of things, is how do you live up to the responsibilities of a god, which in this is projected to those Force Ghost scenes, Mike, where, what if God had to literally listen to your prayers? What if he had to be right there and he sort of wasn't powerless, but he had to help us or atone for it or choose to listen or not listen, right?
Dang.
We get that in this movie. And then at the end, he gets this beautiful moment where, I don't know if you guys saw it, it's a great overhead shot. He is the base, spreading his power out
tree,
in the way that the children are. It's Yggdrasil. It's the Asgardian tree of life, Jacob.
Nice.
The Norse mythology. He is the roots, spreading the power out to the branches. They are the future, right?
Right.
Again, you're like, okay, is that what this movie's about? That seems really cool.
Yeah, I've seen The Last Jedi. Broom Kid.
Yeah, it's like The Last Jedi. Anyone can be a Jedi. Anyone can be Thor.
Yeah, right.
Mjolnir, it's like
merchandise in stores now.
Yeah. Thor is not like anyone can be Thor, not the person Thor, but the superhero Thor, I guess, or the god Thor, because as long as you're worthy to wield Mjolnir, which is why Jane Foster becomes Thor, and she's not like Jane, she's not like Lady Thor, she's just the mighty Thor. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, its worthiness comes from the strength of your character, and I get the kid thing, but it's just so tonally different than when we're literally fighting the God Butcher with children.
I would say it's totally different than when Russell Crowe's talking about orgies. I would say it's not
there
even
was an
in
orgy
the same
conversation
vein of
in
comedy.
this. Yeah, Taika,
but
what are you
know
doing?
What I mean? Like, it's goofy, and then there's goofy. Like, it's just a different level.
Yeah, I think it goes off the rails kind of in every direction. Like, whether it's
even
too
when they
dark,
go
too
to
goofy, like...
Too far.
Yeah, too
Yeah,
far.
and even
too
when they
Thor.
go to the city of the gods and meet Zeus, played by Russell Crowe, and everything, like that scene is funny, but I feel like they could have done more with the idea of the city of the gods. Even have Gore attack the city or something.
Jacob,
all they do is go there for like an hour to meet.
Maybe because they take the lightning bolt, Gore is unstoppable in there, and they fucked up because they didn't stop him before he got there.
Mike, they never explain why they need that thunderbolt. And here's the thing.
Nope.
When they're there and there's Bao, the god of delicious buns, and it's stop motion, and it's so goofy, and it's like literally like Taika's like, I'm drawing on the screen. This is how little I care about this. I can just animate on the screen. The tone of that is then so different than the post-cred scene, Jacob, where Russell Crowe seems so dark and mysterious, and he's giving this monologue, and you're like, this isn't anything like the guy I saw do like a dance and flip up his skirt 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. That's
Colin,
okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say you have a point that a lot of this movie is just different weapons with different abilities, and
that can all fly to your hands.
Weapon. Yeah, like why do they need the lightning bolt? Why can't they use Stormbreaker or Mjolnir or these other weapons?
Why can't they use Stormbreaker? The central thing of this movie, which is that for some reason, Stormbreaker, any of the devices, I guess originally it would have been Heimdall, but the Bifrost is the entry point to eternity to get your one wish.
Yes.
If Thor knew that, why didn't he do that to fucking Thanos? It's a lot easier than a time travel adventure for you to point your stick at the wall and go, 30 minutes from now, we're going to be through, and then I just got to go in there and ask this guy a question, and it's done.
And then we'll party till the night. He'll just
weapons,
end it.
Magic, everything. If there's a weapon that kills the gods that Thor knew about, go get that thing and kill fucking Thanos. What's the fucking point?
Yeah, that's because they're dropping now. Like, the sword has been around forever, so people know about it.
But maybe Thor didn't know about it because he's not like the most learned person, right?
Yeah, but sure. Plot holes aside, the other issue I think with this is the lack of consequence. Like, we have the God Butcher, so then Thor kills Zeus to accomplish his goal, making him no better. And then, oh no, Zeus is alive. But then Jane Foster dies. But then post-credit, oh no, she's alive. And
well, she's dead. She's just in Valhalla.
Well, yeah.
Hold on.
Nova Corps.
To Mike's point, I didn't put that together. The weight of Thor's action, he thinks he killed Zeus. He killed a god in that moment to achieve his goal. That should, in a screenplay about this, that should not be lost to conversation.
No, they treat it as a joke. Sure, we'll probably be chased by all the other gods, but it'll be fine.
I'm liking this movie less because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But did he think he killed Zeus, or did he know that like Zeus would be too powerful?
He thought he killed Zeus because they're like, we killed Zeus. And Valkyrie says, no, you killed Zeus. And he's like, yeah, they'll probably chase us, but whatever. And they just move on.
Right.
Like, there's no emotional weight on that. He literally killed one of the best gods.
Oh, boy.
So sorry about that. I watched this today. And then he's giving a speech to the kids like, oh, and then I had to kill Zeus. Never meet your heroes. And then they're like, you're my hero. And it's like, well, that's now we're kind of reflecting on, like you're saying, if you had to actually meet your gods and like they had to listen to your prayers.
Right.
But they're not doing it the right way with the weight of his action.
Yeah, he literally does the same thing that Gore does at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
So comment on that. Yeah, in your script, but they don't. So the lack of consequence is frustrating in this movie for everyone involved. Korg, you think Korg dies? He's fine.
They just need his face. Yeah.
They Chewbacca us like 4 times.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Of course, that popular phrase you call killing someone and them
bringing
surviving
them back.
the transport ship. Chewbacca.
You Chewbacca them. It's like fridging someone.
And you do get a couple Chewbaccas, because obviously going into this, you kind of thought Valkyrie will die. You know, Tessa Thompson, they're not going to.
They twist us on that
contracts. What does that matter? Natalie Portman, you were kind of like, oh, there's just not even a chance. There were rumors that she'd get her own TV show, but it's like, no, what are you talking about?
Yeah. She doesn't want to do that right now.
Natalie Portman, Academy Award winner, is going to do a Disney Plus 4-episode Mighty Thor show.
Right.
No.
I guess
seeing how good Kenobi went, she's like, I'm done.
I guess.
I do think it's funny how Taika Waititi, just side note, was like, hey, Natalie Portman, you want to be in a Star Wars movie? You ever been in a Star Wars movie?
I did read that.
Yeah.
He just
I've been a lot of them, actually.
Yeah. Have you ever seen
popular character?
Have you ever seen those memes? You know?
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, something's going on. Something's going on with this guy. He's just not paying attention to stuff.
Well, like I said, he went from
maybe this Marvel
guy
fatigue
to the Hollywood it guy that, like James Gunn, is kind of seen as like, oh, he can come in and save our franchise with Thor Ragnarok and stuff. So of course Star Wars is like, oh, what's hot right now? Taika Waititi. All right, our next movie is going to be directed by him. Does he have any ideas? Maybe.
The salvage, Jacob, was that the John Watts of the world, the Russo brothers, the God help us, any of these other assholes who have directed these Marvel movies, you looked at them and you went, Taika Waititi and James Gunn not only seem very in control of what they're doing, they're writing, one of them co-starring in the movie inexplicably, that they are also using that cachet to get a blank check to go out and literally make a passion project. You got a Jojo Rabbit. You get all these, TV shows about vampires and pirates and all this stuff. James Gunn, on the other side, loves superheroes. That blank check to him, it just keeps going into that pipeline, and it keeps kind of just building up.
Yep.
John Watts directing a Star Wars is not him going like, finally, I get to make the thing I've always wanted. With Taika, you really thought this was a guy who was really in control of his destiny, and now I'm like, no, you're just the big commercial guy.
Yeah, and I think Star Wars just does that a lot, where they say like, oh, what's hot right now? Oh, who should we get to direct our third movie in this trilogy? Oh, this guy has this movie called Jurassic World. Let's get Colin Trevorrow, right?
It's going to be huge.
They pull these names, and Marvel and Star Wars, Disney, they both do this where they take like indie people where they see like, oh, they have potential to, start moving into blockbusters. But it's just a shame that every kind of indie director now kind of has to take these jobs, or doesn't have to, but kind of feels compelled to take these blockbuster jobs where I'm sure they're getting paid a lot. But it doesn't seem like Taika Waititi is really that passionate about stars. I mean, I don't know for sure, but if he didn't even know that Natalie Portman was in the Star Wars movies, that's not a great sign.
The mother of Luke Skywalker and Leia, like what?
Right.
You're already in them. Oh, I've never actually seen one.
I've never seen the prequels.
Yeah.
So Sam Neill is. Let me write it right now. So Sam Neill is a Jedi. He's raising a dumb young Jedi who's, probably, I don't know, a young rapscallion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's just the Wilder people.
The Wilder, right. Yeah, there you go.
It's like, go ahead.
I feel like Hollywood doing the getting the indie directors and throwing them on a big feature too, though. It's like getting a quarterback out of college. You got him on a rookie contract. They don't know what the big show is like. They're easier to control and guide to just basically do your corporate movie because they're just excited to be there and have the opportunity.
Right.
Which that
That's
also can affect
They
things.
have one good
But now I
year,
think
they
Taika
get
is-
injured.
Yeah.
he's kind of surpassing that role where it's like,
And then they make it
you
Super
really
Bowl.
want to spend the next like 4 years of your life making this Star Wars movie that you have like no idea what you want it to be about or anything yet, or do you want to like make your own, like do you want to make another Jojo Rabbit type movie or something like that?
But Jacob, I pull it back further and I'm like, do you want to co-star in Free Guy 2? Like with any choice that you're making, the pirate stuff where he's with like his best friends, you know, the Kiwi crew, Reese Darby, Jermaine Clement, Rick McKenzie,
Flight of the
any of
Conchords
those
stuff,
guys,
yeah.
basically the Concords guys, right?
Yep.
That's where I'm like, star in that shit, produce it, you're writing it, you're creative, you're getting Australian comedians jobs like as co-stars on that
Yeah.
show. You're making something like very out, very proud, you know,
Right.
awesome. But
And-
these other big Hollywood choices where it's like, oh yeah, and what if I'm like the fourth voice character in Lightyear? Where you're like,
Right.
why? What,
Mhm.
what is that? What do you want to do with that for?
Right.
Yeah. And with Our Flag Means Death, that's another thing is that he was shooting scenes as Blackbeard starring that show on his off days from making this. So they're shooting, you know, kind of almost concurrently.
Oh man, so he's
That's another
really
reason why
just
his attention is really divided.
too
right?
split. All right, well
Yeah.
let's bring our attention back to the kind of, let's say, the climax of this movie, because that's
Yeah.
another thing I have a big issue with is how quickly it turns. You know, basically they kind of lose to Gore, and he opens the portal to Eternia or whatever, and he goes through. He crawls very slowly. They probably could have murdered him, but they let him crawl slowly through while they talk, and then he gets in there to make his wish, and all it takes is a speech from Thor to say, "I implore you to reconsider." You know.
Yeah.
And he's like,
almost-
"Yeah, you're right."
The portal opening
little
and
quick.
closing explosion has become so critiqued for Marvel that
Mm-hmm.
they now get really insular with. But the finale is a conversation between our lead and co-lead where the hero explains why they're better. You just like, I
feel
saw
like-
you do it with Shang-Chi. I saw
Yeah.
you do it with fucking Doctor Strange back in the day. The first
Yeah.
time they probably pulled
Dormammu.
off. And it's
I feel
you
like it
can't
started
keep
with
pulling it.
Guardians, where he's like, "You're not gonna believe this." He fucking does a dance battle and beats the main villain in a dance battle.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, they've been trying to one up that basically.
Yeah, this is literally the just like, and again, there's a character reason for Thor to be like, "Oh, I'm choosing love, you know, not evil or revenge." And it's like, "Don't turn your back on me." And he's like, "If you're gonna make your wish and we're all fucked, then I'm just gonna hang out with Jane because that's how I want to spend my last minutes." And
Yes.
then that's enough to convince Gore, who's gone on a crusade of murder, to be like, "You're right." And then also, I'm gonna bring my daughter back to life instead, but will you please be her dad? Because I'm gonna die.
I cannot figure out how to logistically.
All of
phrase
these
this
parties
wish
agree to this.
where like I say, bring my daughter back and me. That's impossible. Like I've got to just cut
Right.
that part of the syntax off
And-
and
Yeah.
away.
When he's talking about choose love and stuff, I didn't even realize until the very end that the
So,
girl's name was supposed
hold
to be
on.
Love.
So
Well,
now
that's yeah.
we get the whole thing. She comes back. We get this everything's left behind. Thor on another world. He's taking care of this girl. He's raising her. And we get this return of Korg telling the story from the beginning. And Jacob, if this isn't a goddamn twist, if this isn't one of the best goddamn twists I've ever
Right.
seen in the movie, where he explains to you that the title, for the reason that you've been watching this entire movie, is that their names are Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
And it's just like I think my jaw dropped in the theater.
I was pretty shocked that like we're gonna do this entire thing for basically like a wordplay.
Like a pun.
Yeah.
And I'll give
They
you
must have had
even
that scene
worse.
written before anything else, basically.
Guys,
Oh, God.
I'll spell it out worse for you. He hangers it on both ends, or he bookends it with the dad bod God squad rhyme that he
Yeah.
does, where
Right.
it says this God is now a dad with a bod or something like.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
Only, but
He's
he
just a
just
fit uncle.
he just
A Funko.
oh my God, that's so stupid. Then that he even writes it like that. If he ends with her calling him Uncle Thor, that's so weird.
Right. By the way, Mike, if you didn't know, that girl is Chris Hemsworth's daughter.
This all makes
It's
a lot more
cute as
sense
hell.
now.
That
Yeah.
final scene, I think that's the second best scene of the movie after all the Guardians stuff. And I think those are the two reasons to see the movie, and I think they're a nice little sandwich.
I think it's cool that like she's got Stormbringer and he's got Mjolnir now, and it is cute, and it's like not weird, but it's an interesting way to see his arc of like, dad bod Thor, and then he gets it back together, and now meets Jane, and
Well,
now
like you
he's
said-
a surrogate father.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of people in his life. His dad, his brother, now his girlfriend, that they were just being reunited, basically. And so I guess he gets a daughter, not even a daughter, but a niece, I guess.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
don't
his-
know. I don't know.
yeah.
It's when it's revealed at the end that she has the powers of eternity and shoots lasers out of her eyes, I was like, this is completely insane.
Right.
Mhm.
But I bet Chris Hemsworth loved the idea of having this girl character. He's like, hey, let's get my daughter in here.
Loved it.
Great.
Who do
Yeah.
you think was probably pitching it the whole time? Like, wouldn't it be great?
Right.
Right? Oh man! But so that is what we end up getting. Then that's where we leave off with Thor till the post creds, and then that's Russell Crowe now not being goofy and vowing revenge. Everyone will fear us, which seems to just double down on hashtag Gore was right. Like the gods
Yeah,
must die.
Maybe even switching from a silly Italian accent to like a Greek accent for some reason at the end. Like maybe actually trying to do a good performance as the character Zeus.
Someone
interestingly.
told me there was I was watching Mr. Sunday Movies, and they mentioned that it's like an Australian thing. Like he's doing a bit from the 80s that only Australians are going to get. That's why he's so weird in that earlier scene. It's like a commercial or comedic
I do kind
style.
of like how he's playing Zeus as just like an old Greek pervert. That's like,
Yeah,
"Come on, chill, baby, chill."
absolutely.
Yeah.
It says so much about colonialism. It's so weird that these last two films are made by a New Zealander, shot in Australia, starring an Australian, of course, doing a British accent.
Right.
Kate
As a
Blanchett was
Norseman.
Australian. Yes. Our favorite Butcher is in the second one. He plays he's a Kiwi, obviously naturally.
yeah.
but
Oh,
He plays
yeah.
the executioner as sort of a tough Brit or kind of the same voice as Butcher, right?
Yeah.
It's weird accents going on in Asgard.
Yeah, Asgard's a lot of British colonies.
Yeah, it really
apparently.
is.
But Colin, that last cutscene, you were asking in theater, oh, they show Hercules, right? That's the big reveal. You're like, who's playing Hercules? I looked it up. It's that guy from Ted Lasso. I don't know if you've seen Ted Lasso, but there's a guy in it that's become kind of a meme because he looks like a CGI character in the show. Like something about his face and the way he's lit.
Is he
like in
Greek?
the uncanny valley, but he's a real person.
I don't know.
He's not Greek. He's British, I think.
Okay, so we're just like
But
we're
look
just
up the guy
casting
from
white
Ted
British
Lasso.
guys for Greek characters still in 2022.
Yeah.
That's incredible, Kevin Feige.
Roy Kent.
do you, buddy.
Apparently, he looks
Roy
Uncanny
Kent, yeah.
Valley.
Roy
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
character's name.
Sick Kent.
But yeah, it's incredible. You got to look this
We're
guy
just
up.
putting on like the hottest TV stars are just gonna play the Z level characters at this point. Hercules, not a character I care about at all. Has his fans. Believe this or not, one of Marvel's most prominent bi characters. Go for it, Hercules. You rule. They're not gonna do any of that. There's not a fucking chance.
Again, this is why I don't know what is happening with Phase 4. What is it leading to? What's the point?
They don't really know yet. I was
Okay.
talking to Joe again about this as well. So
Yeah.
But this is my last final point. And what I said up top when I said I had a few things I wanted to critique. This is it. It is the fan reaction to this film essentially boiling down to I saw somebody this is my Rate the Reddit segment, in the Marvel Studios subreddit that said, well, I would just enjoy these films a lot more if Kevin Feige told me what the point of all these ones were and what they were building towards. Guys, that is not how movies used to work. That is how
That's how the
episodes of
MCU works.
television used to work. That is how
Yeah.
the MCU works. That is not how these movies work. And I do not find this to be good or healthy. That is an attitude that terrifies me. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
What is the point of these? Well,
We know
if
the
Moon
point.
Knight / Hawkeye / Thor 4 don't all reference this one thing, what was the point of it all?
Right, but you're
What?
talking about comic book nerds who love to like obsess over continuity between issues, right? So it's kind of a inherited trait from the comic origins of these movies that they would be like that. But
This is
I agree, post
learned
Endgame-
behavior. This is
Yeah.
because of Marvel. This is the cinematic universe disease.
Yeah, and it rolls into now cross-media property disease, where it's TV, movies, potentially comics that may or may not be canon tomorrow, right? You know, it's like all this stuff tying in. So yeah, where are we going? I don't know. Nowhere great. I guess this is definitely my least favorite Viking movie I've seen this year. You know.
I don't know
Right.
that either. I don't know.
Okay, well,
Well, it definitely seems like, you know, the more content they put out, the less the quality, the more the quality kind of slips. Like they used to have like really good quality control with Kevin Feige kind of overlooking everything and be like, okay, we're doing this and this and this. Now it's kind of more lapsed, and with all these Disney shows, they're like, let's make 10
they're
episodes.
spread too
about-
thin.
Yeah,
It's you guys are getting so tricked by the content numbers just because it's so large. You guys are forgetting we literally watched 3 Spider-Men walk out of a portal and cried in the same year.
Yeah, that was
and
great.
all agreed that it was like one of the greatest things anyone has ever achieved.
right.
I don't know how you can say that in the same breath of I just don't understand where this is all going.
Well,
Maybe,
the
yeah.
Marvel thing for me is I go see the movie in the theater, I enjoy it. You know, after it's over, I'm like, that was pretty good. And then as the days or weeks pass from that, I'm like, wait, was that very good, or was I just like briefly entertained?
Were there a lot of
Right.
beautiful people in it?
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm just like Thorn, that I can tell Gore not to kill gods, and then I'll turn around and kill one myself. But nobody can hold me accountable for it, okay? Because I'm different. But maybe that's as good time as any to throw this lightning bolt over to the final thoughts, and we'll kind of wrap up Thor chill and slumber right after this.
We're back. We're talking Thor bore and slumber.
Yeah.
How dare you guys say that? No, we love it. We're talking Thor 4, Thor Love and Thunder. Here on Normies Like Us, the latest Marvel film entry. Now, we're going to talk our final thoughts. Mike originally wasn't sure that you were going to be on this episode because you were getting down to the finish line
really
watching
waiting.
this movie. And I was going to pitch that Jacob and I do a segment called Letterboxing, where we talk about our little letterbox accounts and sort of talk about where we've ranked. But instead, I just want to throw it over to Jacob and say, in this grand scheme of context of Marvel films, have you placed Thor Love and Thunder in your ranking timeline at all?
Oh, you know what? I think I may have added that to the list.
Interesting. Well, as you pull that up, I mean, like
Yeah.
I had mentioned that I put it, below Ant-Man 1, but I'm an Ant-Man enjoyer, but above Multiverse
can't
of
believe
Madness.
that.
But that's pretty much
Yes.
mids, like dead mids. Like it's
Right.
fine.
Other ones of this ridiculous phase, Mike, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, how are they stacking?
I put it a little bit
It's
below
impossible.
Shang-Chi. It's hard because they're like the same movie, dude. It's like they
Yeah,
really are
I
just the
know.
same.
Well, that's the thing.
thing.
I have, a list on Letterboxd of all the Marvel, and there's a big segment that's just the middle where they're kind of like, I don't know if this one's better than this one, but they're all kind of just in the
3
middle.
star, 3 star, 3 star.
Yeah.
And then if I go 3.5 on one, I truly go like, well, but is this one really better than Shang-Chi? Or is it like,
Right.
you just get into the minutia of it. Now, Jacob, before you read off, I just want to know where your placement is of this one specifically. I want to ask,
Yeah.
are you fully caught up is the last entry you have on there Miss Marvel, which would be the most current, quote unquote, full
No.
Marvel list?
I haven't started Miss Marvel yet. I hear good things though from Joe again. He's been very down on some of these Phase
The
5
Marvel
things.
world, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so getting praise from Joe, that's pretty good right now for Marvel. So I might have to check that out. And obviously a big thing happened in that, which I don't want to spoil right now.
Yes.
Interesting.
So if you did have it on there, I would say it's 36 total entries. But out of what you have,
Yeah.
where is Thor Love and Thunder?
I have
stacked?
32 entries, so I must be, I don't know, missing
Do you have
some.
What If
but-
on there? Do you have Moon Knight? And do you have Miss Marvel?
I have Moon Knight, but I don't have What If. I don't have Ant-Man 2 because I never watched that one. It's the only
I
one I
don't have
haven't watched.
Ant-Man.
Wow,
What
that-
a
I'm sorry,
reveal on this
Ant-Man
Thor is
fans.
better
I
than
feel like we should do a Ant-Man 2 episode.
Ant-Man and the
after
Wasp.
Wow. Well, we're gonna get
Yeah.
Quantumania eventually.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's maybe the next feature. Right?
This is definitely better than Ant-Man 2.
Ant-Man 2,
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. The thing is with this list, I do rearrange them from time to time. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
where
I
kind of
tinker.
reevaluate. Yeah, I tinker a lot. Right now, of these phase 5 or phase 4? I keep forgetting.
Phase 4.
Phase 4. Okay. Stage 4.
Stage Thor.
It is stage 4.
No!
Stage 4.
Wow,
Marvel
that's
Terminal,
MCU.
baby. I'm sorry.
that's
Yeah.
much like this movie. It's incredibly dark at times, but also incredibly clever. So,
Right.
wow.
Of all these stage 4 movies, I have No Way Home the highest rated right now, 13. I have Shang-Chi at 17, Multiverse at 18, then Ant-Man at 19. I would probably put Thor between Shang-Chi and Multiverse at 18 now. So that's like dead in the middle.
Almost dead middle.
18, which is where I have Spider-Man Far From Home, which is kind of on the lower side for me. I have a lot of the TV higher,
Yeah.
and Jacob, you've said stuff like Loki, Hawkeye, you've put more towards the bottom.
Loki and Hawkeye are my two highest rated.
Oh, those are your two highest.
Or Loki, WandaVision, then Hawkeye.
Like
For the
Falcon
TV
and Winter Soldier
show.
was quite low, I think, on your.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
right.
Mine,
Well,
that's almost at the bottom for me.
Yeah.
My least favorite and favorite are both Thor, with Ragnarok being my number 1, Thor: The Dark World being number 33. Right.
So he's
my
top,
God.
bottom, middle. You got a Thor Sandy going on in this
Damn.
thing.
And that's kind of how I feel about the whole franchise. Like from
Yeah.
movie to movie, they're so different that I have very different feelings about them. I guess.
Interesting.
That is an incredible find. I'm glad I asked all this now. And
Wow.
it's
So the
shocking
Colin
that I have-
report.
Well, I have Incredible Hulk as my bottom. I'm shocked that you like that movie better than Dark World.
I mean, the bottom 3 for me is Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor: The Dark World.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that's a good
exactly.
I like
the same.
Incredible Hulk.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then I'll be honest with you, Thor: Love and Thunder. Let's find you right here.
Scrolling.
Scrolling above Multiverse of Madness. Okay.
It's below Ant-Man.
Under Endgame. Yeah, that's got to be right. Where did it go? Oh, I've got it here at 19.
So one below Jacob's 18.
So one below Jacob's.
Of these
Wow.
Phase 4, I would put Shang-Chi and No Way
Yeah.
Home above it. I think those have been the strongest parts of that so far.
Some of the martial
I
arts
gotta
sequences in
rewatch
Shang-Chi
Shang-Chi.
were really fun. Like the bus
I got
fight,
it
the
lower. I just
flashback
remember that
fight.
finale being so bad with the dragon. I gotta rewatch
Yeah,
that.
there's a CG
Tony
mess
Leung,
happening.
That should probably raise it. A
Tony
bit.
Leung really lifts it, yeah.
Absolutely. One other thing I wanted to mention while we're doing final thoughts about Thor: Love and Thunder. The effects, right? So it's gotten kind of a little bit blasted about the quality of the effects, and there's a whole other thing with, controversy surrounding Marvel paying for effects people, not paying, as much as they could get for other jobs. So it's interesting. That's sort of a labor issue. But how did you guys feel about the effects in this?
I thought the volume looked dog shit.
You can
I know
tell.
we talk about it a lot on here, but you can see when someone knows how to use it as an additive, opposed to someone who's like, put a rock in front of it, dude, and we can basically move the whole thing around and it'll just look endless. And you're like, I don't want it to look endless with one rock. That just makes it look like an empty planet.
Right. And do you think with the volume and these new technologies they're using, they're getting a little bit lazy in how they do certain things?
Always.
Marvel is.
I think, we're talking about Marvel fatigue with the audience, but what about the creatives? Like maybe they're just as over it. It's like, I got to make 6 Marvel episodes. I got to do a bunch of Star Wars. Like we're all sharing the same studio space. We got the same bosses and producers. They're all cutting the checks. Like we got to bounce back and forth.
And
You're
Mike,
kinda
you have
over
a
it.
meeting where the corporate head says it's your job to get the world excited for Thor 5. What 5th movie in a franchise have you ever been like, well, this is the one?
Yeah. By the time it, reaches its stride. So you could definitely tell they're like taking shortcuts. Whereas The Mandalorian season 1, that's somebody very creatively using the volume. And now it's just like, a green screen now. Yeah, it's just fucking easy. We'll
Because
just do
it's
it.
not standard practice yet, it's someone scared of the technology. And you have to have that reticent fear to be like, I can't rely on this too much.
Yeah. And of course, there's also, I don't know if you've seen the video of Taika and Tessa Thompson doing a little, I think it's for Vogue magazine or something, but they do like a director describing scenes or something. And
they break down
Vanity
the
kind of
Fair
popular where
does those.
he's insulting the effects or talking, badly about the effects in his own movie, and thereby kind of throwing the effects people under the bus. And I did a little bit of a more deeper dive into sort of the labor issue surrounding it. And I've seen Reddit posts of people being like, yeah, I did effects for Marvel and I would rather pretty much do anything else than accept another Marvel job because, you work long hours, crunch. They always want like 9 options of something so they can be like, oh, let's go with that one. They're very picky or they'll make you redo things a lot. So Disney, pay your employees.
Yeah, it's crazy that billion-dollar corporations don't want to pay people a fair wage. And, it seems similar to the video game industry where it's like they get you based on like you have a passion for these movies and you want to work on one, but then they don't have to pay you shit. So
Exactly.
Gore was right. The gods must die.
Must die.
Eat the rich.
I think the one effect shot that really stood out for me as being like, what were they even thinking? What were they going for? Is the head of what's his name, son of Idris Elba.
Heimdall.
Oh boy.
Heimdall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When he comes out of
whoa.
nowhere and has the vision. That's
floating
insane.
head.
That After
When
Effects
Chris
plugin.
Hemsworth has the helmet that's clearly never really on
CG
him,
helmets
on his head,
too.
it's insane.
Yeah, it's like this is a $400-500 million movie or whatever. Like,
Make the helmet.
what are we doing here? Yeah.
It was
Make
like the
helmet.
4th most expensive Marvel movie, apparently, like around 200
Yes.
some million. But it's like,
Yes.
yeah, we'd rather underpay some poor animator to do a CG helmet than pay somebody to either make it correctly or CG
Exactly.
it correctly.
And we focus tested 80% of the movie away, so none of that's
it's
going
like-
to see the light of the day.
It's Disney, so they're like, well, it doesn't matter if we do an amazing job because people will still show up to see this anyways because it's the
Not
big
for
Marvel
long.
movie. Yeah,
Not
so
for
they're
long.
relying on that too
So-
much. We'll see if it changes.
So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
talk about that then, Jacob. Let's say the future of all this. What's it going to take for you to have another Spider-Man No Way Home moment where you really are truly satisfied by what Marvel is doing in the theater? We have a lot of big properties coming up. Fantastic Four, X-Men,
Wakanda
all that big
Forever.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Wakanda Forever.
the next movie
I'm
coming out.
very nervous about that.
Joe and I talked a lot about that. I think it's going to be a mess.
Oh,
I mean, no Black Panther, obviously.
no.
Daniel Kaluuya is not in it. That's confirmed.
Nope.
So it's going to be very interesting. And Joe told me some things that I probably can't talk about now, but I'm excited to see how that turns out. That's in like November or something. So that's coming up. We haven't seen a trailer. We haven't seen
No.
shit about
Wow.
that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And it's going to drop with the same thing this Thor one did. Some killer track that's the hook of the trailer. You'll be like, oh, Guns N' Roses is also big for Wakanda Forever. Okay, awesome.
Right.
Yeah, right. I wonder if Sweet Child of Mine got the Kate Bush bump after this came out. Somehow
Yeah.
I
I
don't
wonder if
think
that's the
so.
most-
I don't think it did.
The most Guns N' Roses songs ever played in one movie. Because I think there's 4 different Guns N' Roses songs they play in that
Don't
movie.
we
Yeah.
cut the do we get 3 Sweet Child of Mine drops or something? It's
Pretty
like
much
it's
like
ridiculous.
Anytime, Thor's doing
built
something
in the
cool, it's
score.
like, let's
Yeah.
get that Sweet Child of Mine.
We get
Like
November
Paradise
Rain, I
City,
believe.
November Rain, yeah.
Which
Welcome to the Jungle.
James Gunn beat
Welcome
you to
the
it
Jungle. Yeah,
with John Cena. A
Right.
better November Rain
that was way
reference.
better.
Yeah.
Guys.
I don't want to
But
think
Mike,
about better superhero directors.
But just your excitement level, Mike, is it coming back if Thor comes down and he's high-fiving Wolverine and talking about like the mutants meeting up with, the Asgardians?
I think maybe it would take something to the level of the X-Men being introduced, and it would have to be handled extremely well. I also think you could use Deadpool cleverly in that endeavor. Like, you're not the guy I remember, but you're like, I know you guys. Like,
Right.
why are you talking to me, right? Like, you could use the fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
I
I
will
think
remind
movies
you,
are-
of course, the X-Men have been introduced. Professor Charles Xavier had his neck snapped in the last movie we
in
watched.
in a different
Yeah,
universe.
yeah.
though. We've gotten a couple of teases. We've gotten the Quicksilver tease in WandaVision. But I think mutants are coming. I think that's going to be the next kind of big thing where they're like, we need to top like No Way Home with all these Spider-Man actors. I think at some point they're going to pay Robert Downey Jr. like $100 million to return as
Maybe
No,
a
you
billion.
pay him
Iron Man
you pay
somehow.
him $1 billion just to allow you to
Flat.
recreate him in a computer, Mark Hamill style. He doesn't even have to
Yeah.
show up, and that'll be the
Right.
first
He wouldn't
time
want
that's
to.
ever been. No, he would. No, you just pay me $100
offered
million. I don't have to
He
show
wears
up.
an earpiece. He hates acting.
Right,
He
right.
hates it. He
Just
hates
recreate
it.
my voice digitally. I don't care. Just send me the check. Do what you want. Like okay, that's what I do. But I'm pretty fatigued. It seems like the creatives are too.
Yeah.
But I
That's
will
where I'm
watch
at.
Ant-Man 3 because I like Paul Rudd a lot. That's what I'm looking forward to is Ant-Man 3.
Yeah, again,
If that
I
one
don't
is
know.
not good, I'm pretty much checked out until the
That's the
X-Men
one
show
you have
up.
hope for.
I don't know about that.
I'm the only guy who likes Ant-Man. I know it doesn't make sense.
It
Okay.
doesn't.
But I do. Did you see that helmet he sent to that kid?
Baskin Robbins.
It's the nicest guy ever.
Oh, that was
I mean, I love Paul
nice.
Rudd.
Yeah.
Seems like
I think I'm
Yeah.
just a Paul Rudd stan, so I'll watch it.
Now, Mike, did you know in universe, and maybe this will be the reason you finally watch Miss Marvel, is that everybody knows the events of Endgame, like the battle with Thanos at the compound, time travel, all that stuff to bring everybody back, because Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, Scott Lang, did a podcast where he explains it to everyone. And he's like, let me lay
That
out like
is hilarious.
the history of the world. This is like
I
what
love that.
happened. Everybody's like, what?
That is what Scott Lang would do. They're not going to call him that often for missions,
No.
you know? Like,
No.
yeah, hang out
Yeah,
with my
by all
daughter.
Yeah, on the
accounts-
podcast.
By all accounts, Miss Marvel is like the one Marvel thing right now that is getting positive reception. So I'm definitely gonna have to check that out at some point.
Especially during the doldrums of, prestige
Yeah.
TV. Maybe that's the one that we're sleeping on. Then we should check out Miss Marvel. And I know they teased with Loki that Kang is going to be a big thing, and there could be multiple forms of him. Maybe that'll come back in Quantumania. But that's the only thing I can see this leading to is Kang. And then I know the Russo brothers mentioned that their dream would be Secret Wars, but we'll
Secret
see
Wars.
if we get that.
Yes, absolutely. But Mike, I just want to stop you and say you just mentioned the thing I need for a Thor 5. My dad's watching all these Thor movies because he just saw this in theaters, and he goes, I was watching Dark World. You know what really works in that movie? I said, what? Tom Hiddleston. I was like, yeah, man, these movies are missing
watched this show
Tom
called
Hiddleston.
Loki.
This is the
But
first one without
the
him.
Chemistry. I want
Yeah.
Loki back in the fold with the big boy. I want them together again.
Oh, especially if we don't have Jane anymore. Get Loki back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen the end of the world, brother. Like, oh, okay, cool. Here,
It's
there we go.
scary.
There's your plot. There's your plot.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's go make a wish together. But yeah, we'll see. It's
right.
pretty fatiguing, but I'm glad I checked it out at least. For the stuff that did work, I got to see a cool Elden Ring villain in my Marvel movie. That was neat, for me at least. So,
Mike, would you do a necro blade build? The blade to kill the gods.
you know what? Hell
You got to
yeah,
two-hand it.
dude.
You got to build that strength up and then two-hand it.
You got to first, you start off as deprived because you're in a desert dehydrated, and then you get that weapon and level up till you can use it. Yeah. And as you kill the gods, you cash. That first god probably gave him 80,000 runes that he cashed in and leveled up pretty high. Because that's a high level first boss kill for.
Oh, yeah. And what is
Core.
what are the abilities in Elden Ring called that are on the weapons?
Oh, it's the weapon arts.
Weapon art. And the weapon art is to create like a shadow monster.
Ashes.
That you
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's a
ashes,
summon.
Yeah, the ashes of
Oh
war.
my
Jacob.
god, it's Elden
Yeah,
Ring.
exactly.
These
That's
fuckers.
exactly what it is. Hey, it's
Oh
like,
man.
there you go.
Somebody tell From Software to sue these guys. Yeah. He literally uses ashes of war to summon spirits. Ooh, baby. Okay, well that's it. That's my tinfoil. That's very
All right. If nobody has anything else to say about Thor, we kind of felt like we kind of liked it. But of course, we'd love to know what you think, Normies. You can hit us up at Normies_like_us. Or you can write in and be like, yo, I'm Steve the Pod Butcher, and you guys fucking suck, and I'm going to come cut you up with this fucking blade because Thor Love and Thunder is my favorite movie, Guns N' Roses Forever. Oh my
Yep.
God.
Oh, I like the
Like, wow,
Axel, by the
relax.
way. Was that the Guns N' Roses? He says
It
he's
was.
a singer.
It literally-
Astard. No,
That's
it's
kind of like
Axel
a-
now.
Yeah.
kind of a trans thing, but it was done in a weird way that I didn't totally get. But he was like,
Oh, there
"Yeah,
was.
this
He was.
singer Axel. I'm named after him now."
And then Korg says, "Stop dead naming the child." I believe, right? And
Well, yeah,
then Thor relents and goes like,
your name is
Axel."
Huh,
He's like,
nice.
"No, my name's Axel." Yeah, so that was all right.
Yeah, there was something going on there. I didn't pick on
Yeah,
that.
so you didn't even pick it up. That's why it wasn't very well
Huh.
done. Because if it was better done, more people would have got that.
Fair enough.
But
Uh,
one final thought that I just want to say is that for some reason this movie had two similarities to Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. that we're gonna talk
Nice
about
tease for the
in a
next
month.
two.
Yeah, but for some reason it starts with a guy wandering in the desert, just like Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. And then Cybok comes up, and then what is Gore trying to do? He's trying to get to the center of the universe.
west to a portal.
Wow.
Meet what he thinks is
It's
the
God,
thing.
basically, right? So,
Yeah, wow.
weird
Mike,
similarities.
did
to
you like
that
Eternity, by the way? I found him very scary to look at.
Eternity itself, it's just the volume. You know.
You don't know that. It could have been Taika in a sheet.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I think we have identified what Taika's been doing, listening to our podcast, because he played Elden Ring, and he's been watching Star Trek feature films, and he just borrowed a lot of that for this screenplay.
Star Trek 5, this William
would say
Shatner
so.
guy was really on the right track.
You're welcome. And Matt and Trey
Yeah,
for stealing
but,
our PP+. Everyone's a fan.
Listeners, get ready for next week, where, of course, if you come back, we'll be talking about our next Star Trek film, the 4th film in the series. So look forward to that.
If you enjoyed this 1 week break from Star Trek, don't worry. There's going to be more Star Trek.
You said at the top, Jacob, we did it in every episode, and you still found a way to go, actually, this film's kind of like
It's
the
still
5th
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek.
I know, but when I was watching Thor in the theater, I couldn't stop thinking about the similarities to Star Trek 5. I was like, I wonder if Taika watched this movie and subconsciously took these ideas from it.
Well, you remember that Gore's wife's name is Cybok, right?
Yeah. Angel. She's Angel, and the daughter's name is Love.
Love.
Yeah. All right. Well, that
We've
about
been your
does it.
host. This is Colin Love.
Twist
Of the episode. This is called that because my name is Normies like us.
Didn't see that one coming.
I'll just say I'm Maxwell.
Nice. And this is Gore the Cobb Butcher.
All right.
Thanks, Normies.
Thanks, Normies. Catch you next time.
Bah. Or I guess that's a sheep.
That was really. I forgot we didn't even mention the goats, and I'm so glad that we skipped them. Fuck those
Funniest thing
goats.
from 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, this funniest thing for 5-year-olds.
Bye.